Journalist, a person without any ideas but the ability to express them. A writer whose skill is improved by a deadline. The more time he has, the worse he writes. Karl Kraus. Journalism has adapted a lot since its creation, but one thing has not been changed by time. That is the impact that journalism has on the public and the people who are exposed to it. The core of this breaks down into the types of journalism, the mob mentality of humanity, and the current state of journalism and reporting. There are 9 distinct types of journalism, but today the focus are the top 3 most seen types of journalism. The first of these is investigative journalism, or the hard-hitting journalism that's sole purpose is to inform. This type of journalism has been a huge part of our history and is the reason why so many of us have the opportunities that we do. The second is entertainment journalism. This has the sole purpose to entertain. This type of journalism, while fun to read in the moment, can cause problems. This is because they often spread misinformation in the interest of viewership. Now, the one you have to be incredibly careful of is the one that is seen the most out of the 3. Politically charged journalism is probably the most dangerous of the types of journalism because its sole purpose is to persuade. This type of journalism usually has the most amount of logical fallacies. As a consumer of the media, you have to learn both sides of view and a centralist point of view as well. These parts of journalism are very different, but the style of journalism is not the sole factor in how it contributes to how people think. The term witch hunt comes from the infamous witch trials that took place in the earlier days of colonization, the most widely known of them being the Salem witch trials. This is actually a very good example of mob mentality. Mob mentality, also called herd mentality, describes how humans adopt behaviors, buy merchandise, and follow trends based on the circle of influence. Mob mentality is when one person believes something because another person told them so. In the case of Salem, each time one of the girls claimed that someone was a witch, the entire town turned on that person. Then, as a way of saving themselves, the accused would confess and give away another witch, which is still very relevant in today's society as well. In the past, there were many people who would dedicate and sometimes risk their lives to get information to the public. These people were rightfully called muckrakers because they would take the gritty, darker parts of humanity, of industry, and then they would bring them into the light. These people are the reason why so many of us have the privileges that we do. Today, however, our standards for journalism and reporting in general has become very lackluster. I once read an article about a college student who was attacked on campus, and the paper that I read it from is a very influential paper. I learned later that the article I read had sparked a feud about political stances between 2 of the most popular information spreaders or newspapers that exist today. The whole situation was very childish to me and left a bad taste in my mouth. The reason is, when we think about the news, we're supposed to trust that it is true, but in actuality, there are still humans behind that keyboard. As the quote stated earlier, the ideal journalist has no ideas but the ability to express them. In a perfect world, this would be true. But in reality, journalists are still humans who make mistakes like everyone else. This is why we have to pay attention to the information we are consuming. First, you have to go into it understanding that just because someone says something doesn't mean that it's true. Then, identify the type of writing you are reading and what that means to the reliability. Finally, you have to understand that there are still humans behind the article, humans who make mistakes and are just as impressionable as you are.